And that's why you begin to see many photographers will always tell you what to wear and what not to wear. And this is also applied in the national television. There are some color code that you don't appear with it in the studio just because you love it. You are restricted to wear a certain color that will really communicate well with the camera, and that is just about color. It has nothing to do with the person. It's just because of you that we have gotten where we are today. You guys saw us from nothing to now something. You watch us grow, and now you watch us grow up. So we are continue with the journey that we started. So coming up next, we will be having series of different videos that we shot over the weekend, and we'll be posting them here. People with unique talents, people with different creativity, so they will just be here on NamShot. Please don't miss it out, and don't forget to subscribe to be part of this. As a photographer, I always make sure there's a camera in my backpack, and every time I move to new places, I make sure I have my camera with me. And every time I feel like this is a very good time for me to use my camera, I just pull out my camera and start shooting. And with doing that, I meet so many different photographers who always try to see what I am doing. And when you're a photographer and you meet another photographer, regardless of where he or she is coming from or whatever gears he's using, you guys will obviously be friends. And it's so amazing that people think when you are from Africa, it's a little bit crazy for you to come from Africa and start shooting in Europe, because it's always known, like most photographers always pack the bag from Europe, they go to Africa and they shoot, and they have beautiful pictures that sell them and make them a world photographer. But it does not make sense for you to like come start being a photographer in Europe, because they think Europe is so much dark that you really don't have very good pictures as compared to Africa, blessed with a lot of lighting, because photography is light. And for me, I don't look at it that way, because I've compared my shots when I'm in Africa, when I'm in Europe, or when I move to some parts. It's not really the same when you're using the natural light, I mean the sun, because photography basically is just drawing with the light. With the use of the machine, you're just drawing with the light, and the amount of light you have determines how much perfect your image will be. And that can always be manipulated through your settings. You can do anything creatively that you can do, so you can bring out whatever you need to do. It's an art. You don't stick to one principle, you don't stick to one way of doing it. It's a different way of doing it that brings different way of images, different images, and all of them, if you ask me, they are just creative. Okay, Africa has better light. Yeah, you can get sharp images and good images because we have light almost throughout the day. Even when it's a rainy season, still it's bright outside, you can still use your camera without the use of the speed light or another source of light. You only rely on the natural light provided by the sun. But here, like in Europe, mostly during the winter, the difference is big, because you only have the sun maybe for less than 2 hours. Then in the end, it's already dark, so you cannot do so much more. But still, even in the darkest hour, you can still have the most creative images if you are a photographer. And it's so crazy to think, like most European photographers think like if they go to Africa they can be the best photographers of all time. But if you're a photographer, you will really know that it is not so easy to be the best photographer in Africa. More so like the skin tone. I don't mean it's bad, but if you're a photographer, you will begin to know that when somebody is so dark and somebody's dark, maybe is putting on a different shade of color, it makes it so hard for you to come out with the nice pictures. I'll give you an example. A black person wearing a white shirt for you to bring that image in a very decent way, it is really so challenging. If you are a beginner as a photographer, you may not achieve that so well, and that's why you begin to see many photographers will always tell you what to wear and what not to wear. And this is also applied in the national television. There are some color code that you don't appear with it in the studio just because you love it. You are restricted to wear a certain color that will really communicate well with the camera, and that is just about color. It has nothing to do with the person. The camera looks at color differently because in the end we are drawing with the light. When we draw with the light, we consider so many factors, and one of the factors is the color of the skin, the color of the clothes that you're wearing. You might have seen like serious photographers or videographers, they tend to do a makeup before an event is happening or before a shoot begins. It's very important because it brings different quality when makeup is done, because makeup will help the camera to perform so well.